On to your markets news now. China and Hong Kong shares fell today, pressured by AI-related firms, although gains in the banking and energy stocks helped cushion the broader decline. Japan's Nikkei index was up 0.42%. The Hang Seng index weakened to 0.7%, while the Shanghai Composite index was down 0.4%. U.S. stocks bounced back on Wednesday with only the Dow Jones closing lower. Fresh inflation data from the Labor Department showed consumer prices cooled more than expected in February, keeping those hopes alive that the Federal Reserve would cut its key interest rate this year. The S&P 500 gained 0.49%, and the Nasdaq Composite Index gained 1.22%, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average was up 0.2%. Back home, the all-share index is up at 0.2%. It's sitting at 87,032 cents. And a quick look at the currencies. The rand against the US dollar is sitting at 18 rands 36. It is at 19 rands 96 against the euro and at 23 rands 79 against the pound. A look at your commodities. Gold is up at $2,944 an ounce, while platinum is down at $973 an ounce, and Brent crude oil is sitting lower at $70.63 per barrel. Simpiwe Litlojane is an investment strategist at ABSA, and he's our market commentator for today. Hello, Simpiwe. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Yesterday, the whole big thing was the budget, and it has finally been tabled, with others saying a less aggressive VAT increase is really acceptable. But I suppose any increase will hurt the consumer, won't it?
Yeah, definitely. Dabbling with VAT is always quite a contentious issue. And the other aspect of that is, of course, that it is a little bit more regressive in nature as opposed to, the progressive personal income tax, and does tend to affect, your lower LSMs a bit more disproportionately. But what is important to note is that government also, put in some measures to alleviate a little bit of that pressure, where they've increased the number of goods that are zero rated from a VAT perspective, so won't be attracting any sort of VAT. And of course, we do also have to look at this a bit more holistically around, what are the funding initiatives that they're looking to essentially fund with the increased revenue, and a lot of those directed towards, development spending, to try and address high unemployment and to try and boost economic growth, as well as, some other socio-economic important aspects such as healthcare as well as education.
Others consider this a pro-growth budget, Simpiwe, especially this trillion rand in infrastructure that has been budgeted for, and growth projections of more than 1% in 2025. How do you at ABSA see it?
No, it definitely is quite a welcomed improvement to see those, economic growth forecasts edging up. We are coming from a year where economic growth was fairly muted in 2024, about 0.6%, and now forecasting that to come up to close to 2%, still not quite, at the level of where we would think the full economic potential is at. So there's still a little bit of a gap from a full economic potential perspective, but definitely much closer and much more welcomed, and really all the initiatives around structural reforms that the government is taking, and specifically, as you've mentioned, the investment pledges that we've gotten, and now it really is the time to see the implementation that will bring about the longer-term economic growth that we need.
Yeah. Simpiwe, let's turn attention to some company news now. This morning, Standard Bank reported a single-digit growth of 4% in the group earnings, but I know that their South Africa arm saw a 11% increase in earnings, more in line with the competitors. Would you say this is indicative of a recovering economy that's seeing businesses doing well? The bank does say that GNU and stable economic, or rather Eskom, did boost confidence.
Definitely, there are some green shoots if you're looking at the broader economy. Of course, specifically from a banking perspective, there does tend to be a bit of a lag in terms of, the interest rate cuts that we have seen, and when they begin to take full effect into the overall economy, and also from a banking perspective, where banks start to see a bit of an improvement in credit demand. But certainly, as those interest rates come down, it does benefit consumers who are alleviated a little bit. And as such, from a credit quality perspective, in terms of ability to repay debt and honor debt obligation, that certainly does bode well. I think for Standard Bank specifically, even though we are seeing fairly muted growth numbers, if you're looking at top and bottom line, it is well worth noting that they are coming from a fairly high base, where in the past couple of years they've been seeing fairly strong growth, especially in the rest of Africa regions, where the pumping numbers are in excess of 20% in terms of earnings growth over the past couple of years.
We don't have a lot of time, but I can't let you go before I ask you your views on Exxaro, particularly that new appointment of Ben Magara. He was previously at Lonmin, and they also saw their results plummet 36%. Do you think he's the right man for the job to turn things around at Exxaro?
I think first things first, quite welcomed from a market perspective to see a little bit of clarity and certainty from a leadership point of view. Of course, there was quite a bit of overhang with the previous CEO. And really, if you do look at the skill sets that he will be bringing and the expertise and the years of experience are quite important. And what is really important for Exxaro is to consider how they transition, away from being a single commodity type miner, especially given that the type of commodity that they are, specifically mining does have quite a lot of headwinds from a demand perspective going forward due to sustainability issues. And really the key is to think about how they are set to diversify and move away or find other uses for the likes of coal. And I think bringing in someone like that definitely does bode well for them. And I mean, there is some involvement that he has had because he is a non-exec director within the organization.
All right. Thank you so much, Simpiwe Tlojane, an investment strategist at ABSA. He was our market commentator for today. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll be speaking to the Deputy CEO of Standard Bank about those results that they released earlier today.